Hello, and welcome to ohmTown Daily News Show for now. Today is June 17th, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 169. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com. That's what powers all of this, and right here are the neurons for... my goodness. All right, I'm gonna... The sentient AI from the future.
Good evening, ohmTown citizens.
Hey, good to see you. All right, folks, I'm running 3 minutes late, and I'm vamping. We've got 10 articles. They are Disney. Well, I come up with new article names, so the real article names are something else. But anyway, we'll get into that. Today, we're going to be talking about Disney mails happy little checks, Mount Vernon Cherries, stop burning candles, Spain's green energy production, $50 billion tax loophole, truck thief believes they can fly. If you listen really closely, you can hear them singing it. 15 months to act on infant formula. A Boeing jet tries to rocket jump. New World Aeternum closed beta. And drunk driving data. All of that and more. It's all powered by ohmTown.com. All right, folks, I'm going to get this out of the way right at the beginning of the show. If you hit !ODNS for this given show in the chat over at Twitch, because, today my bot broke on YouTube's side, so you can't do it from YouTube. But anyway, it puts it in the right order and places it into the chat, and it broadcasts it over to YouTube anyway, so there you have it. That said, you can also type in !show notes, and that will give you the commands for the rest of the shows, although ODNS is going to change name. And if you want to get the podcast, you do !pod, and that will be updated too with the new name. Anyway, if you do a search for ohmTown over on Apple or wherever you catch pod, you'll run across all of the ohmTown network of shows. There's 7 of them, 6 of which are on the weekends. So what you might have bumped up against if you are getting all of these notices that ohmTown has posted 7 new videos over the weekend, it is because YouTube separates live streams from main videos, and so they're not part and parcel to the distribution. They're separate. Even when I categorize them as, Reality Hacker in the Reality Hacker category, they never show up on the main feed. They show up as live, which can happen to be in there, but it's a separate, a whole separate zone. Was the most frustrating thing, and I had already done this for a week, so I had to publish more than 7 videos. Anyway, it's all fixed, and I'm going to go back to my old workflow. I knew that it was happening, but I was like, oh God, is there an easier way to fix this? And there wasn't.
Right, it should be easier than that.
I should be able to just drag and drop them into wherever I damn well please, and the system is smart enough to catalog them. But you know what happens when you start? It's like pissing off Oprah. You do that, and you might just be sent to Mars. Anyway, we've got all 10 articles already lined up. Let's get into it. First article's in ohmTown Daily. Disney is mailing checks after a $9.5 million class action settlement, and here's how to know if you are owed any money. Disney guests who paid nearly $1,400 for a Dream Key annual pass can soon expect a check from Disney. I don't know if that, it's a class action, so you're going to end up with like $15. It included over 100,000 people.
Yeah, you're not going to get $1,400 back. I saw a separate headline that it looks like it was like $67 or something.
What the hell now?
I think it was $67 per person.
They couldn't even make a meme out of it and send it for 69 and go, nice. Anyway, Lauren Edmonds over at Business Insider put the article together. So I had heard about this, but I didn't know what really the results were and really what the shakeout of it was. Did you happen to catch what it was that led them to this class action? Like, what was the actual foundation for the action? Any idea?
I don't know. I haven't read any of the articles.
Okay, so Janelle Nielsen filed the lawsuit against Walt Disney Parks and Resorts in November 2021 after she purchased a Dream Key, which allows guests to make reservations at Disneyland and California Adventure theme parks without additional charge for 1 year. The lawsuit said that Nielsen purchased the Dream Key for $1,400 because Disney advertised it as having no blockout dates. Well, shortly thereafter, Ms. Nielsen attempted to use her magic key to make park reservations to Disneyland, and she was, however, disappointed to learn that Disney had already blocked out many days, including all weekend days in the month of November 2021.
Wow, which is actually a very, I think, busy time for Disney because they already have like their Christmas decorations out and Christmas events, I think.
And it's Thanksgiving and other things, and family is getting together for the holidays and whatever else, It says the problem was not that park reservations were unavailable or that the parks had reached their capacity and therefore could not provide reservations to its Dream Key pass holders. The problem was that Disney had decided to block out otherwise available park reservations so that they were only available to new purchases and were not available to Dream Key pass holders. So,
One problem Disney started, they don't call it surge pricing, but they basically have peak pricing days if you're buying 1 day admission. And I suspect they could charge higher admission for some of these dates and didn't want to use them up if somebody had already purchased something.
So what was the time range between, like, how many people? It says 100,000 people are impacted by this. Are you telling me that 100,000 people purchased it in like a year?
No, in 2 months.
Say what now?
This is August 2021 to October 2021.
But they're also saying that they have 100,000 people have purchased these?
Where does it say that?
The settlement included over 100,000 people. That's $14 million in 2 months.
I mean, it is Disney. That doesn't seem like that could even be accurate.
The lawsuit members through mail and digitally on June 14th, the settlement included over 100,000 people.
I bet it does, but it's like 25,000 households.
That might be interesting. Like they lumped everybody together, like a family of 5 or 40 or whatever it is. So representatives for Disneyland and the Walt Disney Company did not respond to Business Insider's request for comment. Here's what Dream Key annual pass holders need to know. If you purchased it between August 2021 and October 2021, you're automatically included. You don't have to opt into the settlement. People included in the settlement likely received a notice via postcard or email explaining the details. So if you are like me, I could have won the lottery and it would have been in the trash because I don't even look at postcards. Yep, I could be an ohmTown billionaire right now. And I am in my mind.
Yep, but it's in the trash, so well.
So, yeah, there you go. That's less than a standard 1 day. $67.41 is what people are expected to receive. Wow.
I mean, that doesn't cover admission. It doesn't cover like a character dining event. I mean,
yeah,
it's not a lot of money, especially compared to Disney expenses.
What's really funny though is that let's say that the ticket, the standalone ticket, standard 1 day, 1 park ticket to Disneyland, not Disney World, it's more than $100. But let's say that it's $100. You know exactly how much of a percentage of a standard ticket you're getting. You're getting 67.41%.
Exactly. Which is not good. You don't want people making that comparison.
It's passing internally. Nobody will accept that transfer, but it's okay. It's okay. Here, I'll do ASMR
Compared to
pet.
$1,400?
Hey, you got something, right? Right? Be happy. Come on. Don't upset the mouse. As part of the agreement, class members have given up the right to sue Disney for claims that were resolved in the settlement. But if you purchase it between those two dates, you are already included in the class. So did you...
Yeah, that's
Oh.
another problem.
Oh, did I just get... I'm a party of the third part in a two-party conversation. Why am
Mm-hmm.
I being enrolled in this?
I
It's
think
a...
I'd want to go after them individually because that's a lot less than $1,400.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would use the... See, but I would have... See, but can you opt out now? You're like, look, it's only $67.41. If my name was on it and I didn't respond in time, these kind of
It's
class
going to be
actions
an
piss
uphill
me off.
battle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, you should have known. No, why would I have known? Yeah. Irritating. Well, okay. The next article is over in the Marble Channel. 35 bottles filled with cherries from the 18th century found at Mount Vernon. Okay, from the 18th century, these things have been sitting there.
I don't know what to say about that. I can't believe they're still there. I can't believe they're intact.
The contents of each bottle have been carefully extracted and are being refrigerated on site to undergo scientific analysis. Of the 35 bottles discovered, 29 bottles are intact and contain perfectly preserved cherries and berries like gooseberries or currants, according to a news release from the George Washington Mount Vernon on Thursday. So the article is over at The Hill. Lauren Irwin is the author. It's a neat place to visit. If you are interested in early American history,
Or you're a fan of historical movies, right? Like National Treasure. There was some connection, I think, to Mount Vernon.
Yeah, I think they did like a tour to get access to something. But I don't remember that much about that. There's another movie you're gonna have to watch. So the discoveries are part of the $40 million mansion revitalization project at Mount Vernon. Quote, never in our wildest dreams did we imagine this spectacular archaeological discovery. To our knowledge, this is an unprecedented find, and nothing of this scale and significance has ever been excavated in North America. That is some serious inflating
Puffery.
of the... I was going to say puffery. I was going to say exactly that. That is some serious inflating of ye throat sack. Because, come on now. Really?
Yeah, let's think about all the things that could have been excavated in North America. I'm not going to say what those or who those might have been,
Yeah.
but I think this is like, I'm
Come
not
on.
sure about that.
George Washington was known for. These were buried somewhere. Where were they? Do they say? Do they say where they were? Oh, yeah.
I think they were just in the room or something. I'm
found-
sure it's more than that.
Oh, no. They don't even say where it is, right? Where was it?
It was up at the top, I think.
What? No, they just
in
say
a cellar.
that. Oh, it was. Oh, storage pits in a cellar, for crying out loud. All right.
So did they ever go in there? Like, is it accessible, or is it like, covered by sediment or something?
It's got dirt on it, for crying out loud. Like all things, dirt settles to the lowest possible level of any area. It always settles on top of leftover stuff, But it was in storage pits. They knew that the pits were in there. How? Come on, this isn't a major find. This is laziness finally catching up.
This reminds me of museums where they have so many artifacts, and then they'll go, oh, we just found 1,000 whatever. They were sitting in the exhibit room or something.
Yeah, amazing. So far, scientists have found 54 cherry pits and 23 stems. The cherries may have been harvested by snipping them from trees using shears, since the stems were neatly cut. Okay. The silence is because I'm just astonished that this is rising to the level of awe and inspiration, you know? I'm so
Well, I think
jaded.
this is very interesting, but it is most definitely not the most significant discovery, for example, in America.
Yeah. Here, here's the here. Okay, so what was the direct quote? Yeah. Unprecedented find and nothing of this scale and significance has ever been excavated in North America. Here's something that is unprecedented and nothing of its scale and significance. The very next article, and I don't even care what it is. California cities are told to stop burning
Right.
candles. Yeah, air quality alert comes as the Post fire has burned more than 15,000 acres and is only 8% contained.
I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen this as a news article. I've said a lot of those in the last few days.
I'm just astonished that, like, okay, there's people that are bent out of shape about guidance towards not having gas stoves in your residences, right? In your houses. And it's because that there's incomplete combustion of natural gas. And it sits low, and it basically poisons children and animals and yourself if you're too close to the ground. And if you kick it up, you know, your house doesn't breathe as efficiently as you think it might. And then all of this, if you cook a lot, and there's a lot of it in there. Now, we are resilient beings, and so we have the ability to not spontaneously just die because we inhale some natural uncombusted natural gas. But now they're telling people to stop burning candles because
Yeah, isn't that incredible? Like, you would think that might be so that they don't contribute to the blaze or something, but that's not why.
air pollution, indoor air pollution.
Hmm.
Okay. I
Like,
think it's
how
getting
bad must it be that if you're burning a lavender candle or
candle.
something,
Yeah.
that's suddenly contributing to air pollution?
Yeah. I think California is pushing things a little bit too far. Too far. I think they're trying to stop Big Candle from lighting the way. I don't know what.
I don't know. I mean, I really just don't know what this is about.
So, because the Post fire is burning out of control, you don't want to burn a candle in the vicinity of your existence because it's going to worsen air quality already impacted by that fire. Um,
I mean, if
okay.
the fire is bad enough, everybody's evacuated anyway. What's the problem if your neighbors aren't there?
If you
I'm
smell
being
smoke,
facetious, of course, but
oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. Jump in your pool. If you smell smoke or see ash due to a wildfire, remain indoors with windows and doors closed or seek alternative shelter if feasible. Avoid vigorous physical. I'm doing nothing but vigorous physical activity if I'm stuck indoors. And run your air conditioner and or air purifier if possible. Do not use whole house fans or swamp coolers that bring in outside air. Okay. I mean, I get it because if you're sucking in all of this dirty air from outside and it's not going through a filter, but
right, right.
if you must be outdoors, keep the time brief. And wear a tightly fitted N95 or P100 respirator to help reduce exposure. Okay. And I'm sorry, if you're out mowing your lawn during a wildfire, I think you've got your priorities kind of
But
screwy.
you know there are people doing that.
Oh, of course. Of course. And I'm spraying gasoline all over my yard when there's a fire because nobody told me not to.
Again, somebody is making that statement as we speak.
Oh my gosh. All right, folks. And is the Post fire the one? Is that the one that's burning in New Mexico?
No, this one's near, I think it's the one near Los Angeles, but
Oh,
it's
okay.
really significant.
Yeah, there's one in New Mexico as well that's moving fast. But climate change is your imagination. It's pareidolia, really. You're looking at
Yeah, you're seeing
clouds,
a cloud,
really
and I
low,
don't know.
dark
I got
clouds.
nothing.
The next article is over in the Hatch Ideas channel. Too much of a good thing. Spain's green energy can exceed demand. Huh. Spain is looking at storing electricity or increasing demand to solve energy oversupply.
Where else didn't we see this somewhere else recently? But it wasn't Spain.
Where was it? Yeah, they were generating too much power.
This does not sound right, but I swear it was South Africa. But it couldn't have been because they are
They have
known
like
for having
energy
shortages. Yeah.
cutouts. Yeah, yeah. I don't remember where it was. We'll have to look, but I think this is amazing because here in the United States, depending on the state you're living in, you get fined for feeding power back into the grid. You have to pay for the privilege of generating oversupply and pushing it into the system. And I didn't get to mention that the okay, sorry. So Guy Hedgeco over at bbc.com put the article together. It says, but now it is wind turbines, their modern day equivalent. They were once known for windmills in Castilla-La Mancha in central Spain, but now it's wind turbines, which are much more visible in the region's skyline. I keep hearing stories about it impacting birds and others, literally impacting birds and other stuff. But I don't know if that's like, what is really going on there that birds are getting clipped by these relatively slow moving wind turbines. How is that actually impacting them? Out at sea,
Well, I don't
it's
know.
actually,
Maybe if they're like migrating or something and not reacting to things, I'm not sure.
yeah, I've never looked into it because I've always thought that it's absurd. But I've never actually pulled up any data on it. So I guess I'm going to have to do that, which isn't that big of a deal. It's easy for me to grab that kind of data, but Spain's total wind generation capacity, its prime renewable source in recent years, has doubled since 2008. Solar energy capacity, meanwhile, has increased by a factor of 8 over the same period. This makes Spain the EU member state with the second largest renewable after Sweden in first place. I thought Germany was actually dominating this, but I think it's because they're I think they're trying to move themselves away from natural gas to something else. But I thought that they had switched to green energy sources. So the boom began.
I thought they had as well.
Yeah.
I would not have pegged Spain for number 2.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? And I wouldn't have thought that Sweden was first place, but they're different renewables, so different things. So Spain may be renewable at number 1 in wind, and Sweden in solar or geothermal. I don't know. I'd have to look that up too. So the boom began soon after the arrival of a new government under Mr. Sanchez in 2018, with the removal of regulatory obstacles and the introduction of subsidies for renewable installation. And the pandemic further accelerated the trend on a domestic level. Just imagine, there's a stat that we're going to run across at the end of the show, the impact it would have on North Dakota and South Dakota and Wyoming and various other states here to embrace renewable energy. It'll make sense.
You mean some of the states that may be more coal-based?
Yeah, but largely because they're drunk most of the time. Well, it'll make sense once we get there. And it's kind of along the lines of why we're changing the name of the show.
Oh, yes, that'll be very fitting. It's too bad we didn't change it today.
I was so tempted, but this week we'll be changing the name of ohmTown Daily News Show. It'll still remain a news show. It'll still be part of ohmTown, but
the format won't change. The website won't change.
Nothing will change except for the name. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Anyway, However, behind this success story, there are concerns within the electricity industry caused by an imbalance between supply and demand, with at times a surplus of energy. Even though the Spanish economy has bounced back strongly from the trauma of the COVID pandemic and is growing faster than all of the bloc's other big economies, electricity consumption has been dropping in recent years. So they're making more and using less, which means it's gutting the value of these things, because people are generating enough to consume at home and then feeding back into the system. And this is protectionist bullshit. If society moves away from consuming it from some centralized generator and everybody starts generating it on their own and can ultimately detach from the power grid, win all around. I want to do that every day I wake up. I go, God, I would love to get off of the power grid. Why? Because I know that my power company knows how much power I use compared to my neighbors, so much so that they send me a little letter to say, hey, and they call my neighbors more efficient. Well, no, I use more power because I need more power. Just because my neighbor is a Luddite who, burns twigs in the backyard to stay warm doesn't mean I should have to as well. But anyway, I don't want anybody caring or knowing what I am doing in the mayoral mansion. So,
No, electric usage certainly is sending a lot of data to a lot of places.
yeah.
I did look up, and at least as of 2021, Germany was very high in the wind energy. It was well above both Spain and Sweden. And then solar, it wasn't as high, but it was also higher. So maybe something has radically changed in the last couple of years.
Interesting. Yeah. So this data isn't necessarily the most up to date, right?
No, I'm thinking that this data is, but what I'm finding online from a couple of years ago suggests, for example, Germany
pivoted.
Was more of a powerhouse.
Gotcha. Yeah, it changed. Okay, so our data, like our memory is a little bit older. Like a year makes a huge difference when one innovates and embraces. And that's exactly what happened after 2018. The new Spain government pivoted and embraced wind generation. I still have a problem with wind generation not being defensible, but I will take it, up until war breaks out somewhere. For instance, if we all switch over to wind generation or solar generation and we abandon the infrastructure, and war breaks out like war broke out in Ukraine, all it takes is shooting up a couple of wind generators and dropping flechette rounds over neighborhoods, and all power would shut down. You wouldn't necessarily have to go all, massive bombardment of a neighborhood, because nobody would be able to drive their cars. There wouldn't be any gas anywhere, except for maybe military, but even that would need power. And so you'd have these little enclaves of military complexes, but that's about it. And all the rest of the power would be shut down. So we need defensibility. And right now, the only thing that we have for that is like natural
We
gas,
don't even
fossil
have
fuels.
defensibility for traditional methods.
Correct. Yeah. The only one that truly is, though, I mean, you can carry around a 5-gallon jerry can of gasoline and pour it into some random car and drive it away. You have to sit for 8 hours and charge up a Tesla.
Right. Yeah. I mean, some are more practical and defensible than others.
Yeah. And I don't have so much of a worry here in the United States, but all of Eastern Europe basically is susceptible to conflict because somebody wants to put the band back together. So, again,
Too soon.
Well, no, it's too soon, as in it's happening right now. All right, I agree.
Yes, exactly.
So, this article is all about too much of a good thing, being that Spain now has an excess of electricity, have led to discussions of the need to accelerate the electrification of the economy, which involves moving it away from fossil fuels. The Sanchez government has set a target of making 34% of the economy reliant on electricity by 2030. The process is going slowly. We need to accelerate it, says UNEF Jose Donoso. Electricity is the cheapest and most competitive way to produce clean energy. Okay. That hurt my brain. I'm trying to finish that train of thought. We need facilities that use electricity to in place of fossil fuels. So, okay. The whole idea there is to get rid of ICE, right? Internal combustion engines, anything that uses fossil fuels, and electrification is the only way to do that. Now, you still need generators, and sometimes they use fossil fuels. Failover generators need fossil
Yeah,
fuels.
you're not totally away from that, but possibly depending on what your rollout plan is.
Yeah, and you're definitely not going to get like the arc furnaces and stuff like that for melting metals being solar powered anytime soon. Maybe, in an experimental one at low volume, you might find one. But yeah, electrification is great. But I think that the only real defensible way, there we go. Mrs. Pizzonato agrees that electrification is crucial, but says there are other ways to tackling the supply-demand quandary, including phasing out the use of nuclear plants more quickly and increasing energy storage capabilities. But I think that you should use nuclear power plants.
Yeah, I don't see
And
why that's going in the right direction there, but
yeah, and I think microreactors are where it's going to end up being lots of little micro nuclear reactors that are controllable. Anyway,
so
want to keep
maybe
going?
that statement is about like older and less efficient reactors.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's going to be. It'll be fun to monitor this as we move it forward in time,
Do
because
you think every year we're going to have a different ranking of countries?
I think it probably already exists. We just haven't stumbled across it yet. Because there's only so much. I mean, there's so much information out there. Even ohmTown and its 50 channels still funnels thousands of uh, actionable information bits, right? And you can't catch them all. That's why we put together the news show so that we can highlight just 10 a day. You're going to have to go over, all of you who might be listening to this, go to ohmTown, sign up, become a citizen. And it works just like this. So we talk about this stuff at 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. and on. We have 4 shows on Saturday and Sunday. So just to be clear, let me do this right, because I got in trouble with the AI yesterday. So on Saturday, we have ohmTown Daily News Show, but again, the name is changing. Reality Hacker Wanted and Warcrafters. And then on Sunday, we have ohmTown Daily News Show, the Continuity Report, Technology Today, and 4-Wheel Tech. Got 3 more planned that will launch by probably the end of this month. I think I've sussed out all of the problems with the Mix War show. That said, Monday through Friday, we do ohmTown Daily News Show at 8 p.m. this show. And it's only 10 articles each time. The other 6 shows have their niche, but we're missing stuff. We have to be missing stuff, at least for the show.
Well, yes, for the show, it's very hard to narrow down for 10. In fact, in the earlier days of ohmTown, we used to do 12 articles per show, and it was very tough to transition to 10 per show because there's just a lot going on every given day, or for the weeklies.
But we had a 2-hour show then, too. So one show was 2 hours. It was brutal. But I want to do this all day long, and that's why I created ohmTown and its 50 channels. It used to be just used for me and my information overload, but this is how it works. there are categories. There's 6 main categories, and then 50 channels that are housed within those main categories. This one, for instance, is ohmTown Daily, the name of this show. And the title of the article is "The Door is Slamming Shut on a $50 billion Tax Loophole Used by the Super Rich." The U.S. Treasury and IRS are closing a tax loophole used by the uber wealthy. They're cracking down on opaque. It's called opaque. They put it in quotes, opaque. Not sure why they would put it in quotes, but anyway.
Because that must be in the regulations. Like the article isn't making that description.
Yeah, we're going to have to read this. It's from Business Insider, but on the other side of this, it says they're cracking down on an opaque business structures that inflate deductions. The proposed regulations could generate $50 billion in fresh tax revenues. The Treasury proposed new tax regulations Monday targeting the uber wealthy that they say could result in a $50 billion tax revenue increase over the next decade, though, which is great still, but I think it's just barely touching the surface of what this is. Business Insider is the source. Jeff Weiss is the author of the article. And
I don't think that's Andrew Harnick. I think that's the photographer.
Yeah. That's what's her name from?
Is that Yellen?
Yellen, yeah. And she's holding a pen going, I'm fully capable of stabbing you with this pen. Do I look like I'm joking? Yeah. Anyway, you have to look at the picture, folks. So let's see. I'm trying to figure out what they're referring to as. Okay, see, you're absolutely right. The initiative seeks to crack down on, quote, related party basis shifting transactions or the use of, quote, opaque business structures to inflate tax deductions, the Treasury press release said. These kind of tax holes contribute to the $160 billion annual tax gap among the top 1% of filers, the Treasury said. Anybody who is sitting there complaining about this will never be in this 1%er location. The people that are... Go ahead, if you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to say that amount of money makes a big difference in the funds in the Treasury.
Right.
And it's probably meaningless to people that have that much money.
Well, they have that much money because they are that, belligerent about how much they hide, and like they create a health fund that they don't ever really tap into, but they put $100 million in it, and it's treated as a bank account basically for medical costs, which they're never burdened by, right? But it's hiding the $100 million, and then they loan against the $100 million because it's sitting there as a cash asset at less than 1% interest, but it's secured loan by that. Meanwhile, somebody wants to buy a car where the value of the car is $60,000. It's secured by the value of the car, but you have to pay 6% because you're making just enough to pay the monthly bill. So the perceived risk is higher, and so the bank screws you. Meanwhile, you're watching the ultra rich through, no fault of their own, being able to exploit the lack of risk because they're born with a silver spoon. I guess I'm a little cynical about this, but anyway, filings from pass-through businesses with more than $10 million in assets increased 70% from 2010 to 2019, the Treasury said. It's as audits fell from 3.8% to 0.1% over the same period. Yeah.
Here's a wild idea.
Audit them?
Yeah.
Did I steal the air from your sail?
No, it was so obvious.
So, yeah, Treasury and IRS are focused on addressing high-end tax abuse from all angles. Resources from President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act have helped combat long-standing abuses. And let me tell you, folks, They're not coming after little people that have barely enough income to pay. You are paying 24%, somewhere between 12 and 24%. The ultra rich are paying 1%, 2% because they have tax havens and they've got business opaque business practices that allow them to get money out of an account that isn't in their name that's earning interest. I mean, it's all this arcane financial instrumentation. Meanwhile, there are people that are complaining about this kind of stuff, but they couldn't go 6 months without a paycheck to save their lives. They couldn't go 6 days without a paycheck. And that's the
Right.
same
Well, the other
windmills.
thing people don't connect is taxes actually pay for things that are important,
Yeah.
such as roads or schools or
Yeah.
any bridges.
And it goes beyond that because there are some things that are society-based foodstuffs, infrastructure, power, research and development, fundamental research and development that's all paid for by taxpayer dollars that you don't know about, but you are the benefactor of. The phone that you have in your hand has GPS that was funded through a research grant. The website Google that you are using was funded by DARPA. It was a defense research project that funded it. Many, many, many other solutions out there were funded by taxpayer dollars. And you don't even know it. You take it for granted. Yet when somebody says, oh my God, they're coming for the 1%ers, I might be next, you're suddenly outraged. No, you're never going to be next. You have to screw up royally to land on the radar of the
Yeah, like
actual
inherit
government.
$1 billion.
Suddenly. Yeah. All right, let's keep going. The next article is over in Four Wheel Tech. A truck thief drives onto a runway behind a plane that just landed in St. Louis Airport.
Who was more surprised, the truck or the plane?
Do planes have rear view mirrors? Like, is there like a little...
I hope so. So they'd be like, what is that little...
Holy shit, George is in a car behind us. This is from the Associated Press. It's over at autoblog.com. The deck statement says not cleared for takeoff. But I titled this, Truck Thief Believes That They Can Fly. And you can hear them singing, I believe I can fly.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So prosecutors say that the man took a utility truck that was sitting unlocked and running and drove onto the airport through a closed security gate. He went on to block a plane from using a taxiway before officers approached with guns drawn. He briefly exited the truck and asked officers what was going on before jumping back in the truck and speeding away.
Do you think he was like, what's up? Or do you think he was actually like, hey, what's happening here?
I'm trying to catch that flight. Yeah. There's not much left to this article. So go over, check it out, though. You can follow the links. Just type in !ODNS, and that'll pull up today's articles. Even when I'm not streaming, you can actually go into the twitch.tv and soon, again, the YouTube channel. Did you see something you want to say?
Well, I wasn't sure if it meant the plane sped up or the truck sped up, so that made me laugh. And then also... he crashed into a police car, so he's really not doing himself any favors here.
So, Missouri Man, which you rarely ever hear about Missouri Man.
Maybe they're vying for the title of Florida Man.
Yeah, there's Florida Man that's like way up here, and then there's Missouri Man way down here. Here I have to use the bottom of the frame. So Missouri Man is up here, down here, and Florida Man is still up here. Good luck, Missouri. Men of Missouri, you've got your work cut out for you. The next article is over in the Mobile Channel. FDA took 15 months to act on infant formula whistleblower complaint, says an audit. We've talked about this from time to time, but I have been really livid about this because I watched in real time as this was happening. and know people that were impacted by it. You're not being able to get infant formula. And if you have a child that was immunocompromised or needed a special formula, it vaporized the supply. And then greedy bastards bought all of the supply so that they could sell it via like Facebook or a Craigslist or other vehicles that allowed for you to sell stuff. Even local community, whatchamacallits, like post boards and stuff like that. Like,
right. Like nutrition nonprofits, like
oh,
WIC or something.
yeah. So now I know what you're talking about. I'm doing something that causes that. Anyway, so FDA did not have adequate, and in some cases completely lacked, policies and procedures to identify risks in infant formula and then respond to those risks effectively, the report from the Department of Health and Human Services Office of Inspector General found. So the article is over at thehill.com. Nathaniel Wexel put the article together, and this is what I witnessed, like directly I witnessed, anecdotal as it is. I found shelves because I was really curious, like what was the real impact of this? It shut down over 25% of the supply.
And it's hard to understand it till you actually see it.
Yeah.
It's reminiscent of the like paper products shortages during the pandemic.
Yeah. And I've been through two of these kind of situations where once when I was a child, I witnessed shortages for food in certain areas. And now some 50 years later, I witness it again. And I thought it was absurd. And so I actually started digging into, because I was not privy to why everybody is so hell-bent on getting formula. And I found out that it's actually poo-pooed. Do not create your own formula because you can't get the nutrition right, or the consistency right, or all kinds of things right. But we've been raising children for millennia. How have we gotten this far? And I know that science short circuits natural selection, so I'm not surprised that you get better nutrition from something that is scientifically constructed. But
yeah, but I would also say people were not using seatbelts, or people were,
right.
I mean, doing all kinds of other things. So, but you're right. I mean, in concept, people have been okay without it, right?
Yeah, I mean, the mortality rate has changed, but you know what is almost a guarantee to cause mortality? No food. So, yeah, why don't we have an open source formula that isn't bound by somebody's?
Yeah. I don't think we want to go away from formula because I think that's another set of problems.
No, and I would never suggest that, but I would suggest that there is a process that in times of an emergency, parents should be able to create their own formula because they can do the due diligence necessary to keep their product clean. I mean, we have foodstuffs all over the place and our immune systems fight it off. The only way to build a robust immune system is to allow it to get a little ill at a time, not just not be protected from illness and then land on what happened here, which was there were bacterial infections in the production lines themselves that caused these foods to be contaminated, and they waited 15 months to act on infant formula whistleblower complaints. So this is akin to
that just doesn't make any sense. I know that other things don't move expeditiously, but think about what this is.
Yeah, exactly. So the agency received a second warning from the same whistleblower several months later in October of 2021, but according to the report, the FDA did not escalate that 2021 whistleblower complaint to senior leadership, resulting in a nearly 4-month delay before senior leadership was aware of the complaint. But it took more than 100 days from the October whistleblower complaint to inspect the factory, and during that time it was waiting to inspect the plant, the agency received 2 consumer complaints about infants who consume the formula manufactured from those
And
facilities.
these aren't just garden variety complaints. One of these involved a death.
Yeah, and it was the chronobacter bacteria that if you are young or immunocompromised, it can kill you. And this is where the problem really manifested. They didn't give a shit until a child lost its life. So, and since then, others became very sick and so on. So the FDA shuttered the plant for several months, and the company issued a nationwide recall for all of the brands of powdered formula that had been manufactured at the facility, including popular brands like Elementum, Elecare, and Similac. And these were actually formulas for immunocompromised babies to begin with. They were specialized formulas, from my understanding. So, yeah, I think, and the fact that there's only like 4 plants in the United States that make formula overall.
Yeah, it says only 4 manufacturers.
So
and
when
each manufacturer only has a small number of plants.
Yeah, yep. And this one plant apparently was like represented 25% of the overall formula market, right? Because it produced for 3 other brands. So I was shocked, and I thought that it was really outlandish. But I spoke to medical professionals that said that it is just wholly discounted to create your own formula. Industry people say do not do it because you can't create a holistic formula. But we know what needs to go into it. So why is it impossible to produce?
Exactly. Like, I agree. We don't want people to do it on a daily basis because nutrition is extremely important in the early days of an infant, but it might be better than no formula.
There you go. And to me, though, I think that we've painted ourselves into a corner through mergers and acquisitions, and we're paying the cost both with lives and our long-term stability. Nobody else can create it because we've always discounted the creation of it. So now the government should be stimulating the formula market by seeding companies to spin up operations to create competition so that nobody can sit and fund oversight to a greater extent so that you have lower prices and more opportunity for recovery if one plant goes down because they fail to meet, I guess, cleanliness, sanitation limits. If they fail, then there's a bunch of other people out there that are making something, within a reasonable margin of profit, 10%. We know they're not making revolutionary formulas. They're making the same formula that they've been making, maybe it more efficient, maybe adding a new nutrient here or there, but the formula has remained the same. Although they've carved out little segments for niche formulas, but
right, for specialized formulations.
It's hard to use formula for formula. Okay.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of formula, or not a lot of formula based on the shelves.
And there's a formula to it. So the next article is over in ohmTown Daily. Watch flames seen from a Boeing aircraft after takeoff. The plane was forced to make an emergency landing following a fire in the engine due to a supposed bird strike. Now
everybody's blaming the birds.
Yep. I guess they got given the bird and flamed out. So a Virgin Airlines Boeing 737 was flying from Queenstown, New Zealand to Melbourne, Australia, and was diverted to Invercargill airport. Members of the public reported seeing flames apparently coming from one of the engines, although Virgin Airlines later suggested that the fire had been caused by a possible bird strike. This comes hot on the heels, and this may be conspiratorial or whatever you want to call it, or paranoid. This comes on the heels of reports of Chinese off-brand titanium. And so I'm always now kind of leery of what's going on and what gets told to the public.
Well, the public has no way to know, right? They can't source transportation and go, where was this particular vehicle
Yep.
manufactured?
And I can't play this. I'm air gapped, so a spokesperson for the Fire Emergency New Zealand told Newsweek that, quote, fire and emergency crews responded to Invercargill Airport this evening after reports that an aircraft had diverted from Queenstown Airport around 6 p.m. Flames were reported to be coming from one engine. I don't know of any updates, but then they kind of devolve in January, March, April, May. I mean, there's just one thing after another involving Boeing Airlines. So let's keep going.
I mean, we can't, it's like every day in the news. It's really been a bit, it's almost getting ludicrous if it wasn't something serious.
Ludicrous. Oh, and I didn't say the name of the author or the
Not
location
Ludicrous Speed.
Ludicrous, the musician. Yeah. So
Oh.
Marnie Rose McFall over at Newsweek.com put the article together. Sorry about that. I usually do it on the front end, but I was really excited about this transition. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next article. It's over at Tabletop Nights. Amazon Games announces New World Aeternum closed beta. And, you know, this is a real bummer for Merwatt because I play New World, but this is not a closed beta for anything other than console games. They want a more involved understanding of the player experience for PlayStation 5 and Xbox, not PC. So right now, you're not going to be able to play anything closed beta on PC. I think their statement was they are PC. The PC side already has enough experience with New World Aeternum.
Well, that's not very nice.
So it says you'll get to customize your characters, interact with and use different weapons, explore supernatural cursed areas on the island of Aeternum. Yeah, I don't think anything new is in this closed beta. It's specifically because they're porting it over to the console side. Because I was a beta tester for New World Aeternum, and I've been playing it off and on since its release. But I can never dedicate enough time to do all of this stuff long term. I would love to stream games, but I must have ADHD because, like, the only thing that stimulates me long enough like to stay interested in the same thing are these shows. Like when I
Right. Well, that kind of dovetails with the new name for the news show.
yeah, that's true too. So the article is by Carly Dixon over at RP Gamer or rpgamer.com because it's roleplayinggamer.com. Yeah, anyway, you can actually follow a link through the rpgamer.com website, and when you click it, it'll make you choose either PlayStation or Xbox, and it's not for PC. So,
What is there another button that says no consoles?
No, you only have one option. I mean, you have two options. Believe me, I looked, and then I did some more digging, and it says it's not for PC. Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to our last article. And I think this is really funny and sad at the same time. Sad because I think I know why people are doing this. But funny because I named every single one in the top 10 list of states. So.
Oh, really? Like without seeing it?
Without seeing it. Yep. I named them. Yeah, this article is, it's been aggregated into ohmTown Daily, but the title of it is Drunk Driving Data Shows States with Most Arrests.
Can I guess one of them?
Go.
I haven't read the article.
Go.
I'm going to guess Alaska.
Yeah, off the chart compared to the rest. Yeah.
I don't know why, but that just seemed like that might be where...
Go ahead and guess others. Go ahead. All right, I won't put you on the spot. All right. So the article is by Monica
Texas.
Sager. and Wyoming and North Dakota and South Dakota and now
Okay.
California is in there. But here's the deal about this. Um, so California, and these aren't all of them. There's a list later on. So California has 479.61 and is ranked number 6. Idaho is ranked 9, 391 per 100,000 DUIs. North
Wait a
Dakota.
second, right? These are people, I think, that have actually been arrested.
Yes.
They're not necessarily the whole number of people doing this.
Correct. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely not. No. In a single year. So Alaska led the nation with an alarming rate of 726.13 DUI arrests per 100,000. Now, what's amazing?
Yeah, 1,000 people per 100,000. That's pretty high.
Yeah, like 1% per capita, basically. It's amazing. It's amazing. And considering the population, it's a highly dense drunk population.
Exactly. So, I kind of picked them because it was so rural, and I thought maybe they don't think it's really harmful or something. Like if you're not encountering a lot of vehicles on the road or something, I don't know.
And so I came to the conclusion that highly dense populations have a high DUI rate. To me, it seems like as you increase the population density, there's like a threshold where people are just getting drunk all the time. And because they are driving from one place to another, it's a target-rich environment, right? The two that stood out the most was the entire Dakotas.
That is both of them.
Yes. And South Dakota is the drunkiest of the Dakotas.
Well, that's because it's too cold to go outside, maybe in North Dakota?
Exactly. The thing that threw me was Mississippi at almost 400. But I would want to know like the counties in which all of these are taking place to get down into the thing.
Oh, are they more concentrated than it shows from the map? I mean, that would be even worse.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yep. So the top 10 is Alaska at number 1, South Dakota, Pennsylvania, North Dakota, then Wyoming, and these are all of the states that I picked. I picked every single one of these. New York, Mississippi, Idaho, and Arizona. And so there's certain things where nothing is going on and people are getting drunk, or everything is going on and people are partying and getting drunk.
Oh, right, but not much in between.
Right.
Yeah, the one that really threw me off was like New York. I know that's not like New York City, but it just kind of surprised me.
Yeah, and without greater fidelity as to where it is, because the article goes into stuff like data and whatnot, but this is a sociological thing. People get drunk for a couple of reasons, right? Primarily a couple of reasons, either to party or to cope, right? And this is the punch card of drunkenness in the United States.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to be on those, on that top 10 list.
Yeah. And it's making me want to look at the with greater fidelity the locations of where these DUIs are taking place.
Right, and look at the total DUIs. Now, I get it because if you're more population dense, but that California number is very astonishing.
Yeah, but because it's so population dense, right? These are the two things I'm willing to bet.
That's like an actual percentage of their population, I think. Like a noticeable.
I don't know. I think that California and New York, what you're going to find out is that it's high density locations where the DUIs are taking place. Like in New York, it's Manhattan.
I don't know about that because there's not many people that drive there. But maybe around
into and out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. And California has a lot of highly dense population centers,
So like
LA,
LA or
yeah,
something, yeah.
San Francisco, San Diego. But then all of Wyoming is, I mean, for crying out loud, it's the least populous state in the country.
You have to leave your EVs at the border, but you can bring your booze in.
There you go. Yeah. The wagon wheels need to, they're not going to get drunk on their own. All right. That's it, folks. That is it for the ohmTown Daily News Show. Stay tuned. Changes are afoot. And we're going to hop in our covered wagon and slowly, ploddingly leave Wyoming and head back down Main Street. I'm sorry, everybody. I really kind of beat up Wyoming quite a bit about it, but there's a plethora of reason for that. Mainly because they poo-pooed all kinds of stuff about the pandemic, and they find in favor of like oil and gas economy.
Right.
And
That's like the state government, not all the people.
Yeah, and it's my ire is entirely placed at the government, because what can happen really quick, just like what happened in Spain, a change in the government could provoke a massive quick change in how it impacts society. You know, we saw Turkey pivot from arguably a democratic country with a democratically elected leadership into an theocratic aristocracy, or not even aristocracy, it's a theocracy. And now, you know, all it takes is, like in Spain, leadership changed and they embraced solar and wind, and now they have a surplus of power generation, so much so that the economy is being impacted because they can't move fast enough to electrify and consume the electricity. And then here in the United States, you've got this 50 states all having a pissing for distance contest as to how they can tax people differently or shutter access to something differently. It's so absurd. And instead of coming to align for like purposes, some middle ground, you literally can only choose one of two sides. And that type of gangland warfare is only going to lead to our destruction. So, sorry to get on a soapbox at the very end of the show, but there's a time and a place for everything. And it'll even make everything that I say make sense when the name change comes.
That's true, but we haven't made the name change yet.
I know. I'm teasing everybody about it, though, so it'll all be frictionless. It'll be transparent to everybody when it happens, so you won't have to change anything. It'll just happen. All right, folks. That's it. I am Mayor Watt, and the sentient AI, maybe not paying attention to me getting one of them. It moved, and I moved it in the wrong direction. I quit. That's it.
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for ohmTown Daily.
See you, everybody.